news here, so fuck it.
Let's smoke the whole meeting.
Let's do it. That's what I do anyway.
Yeah, right?
So, okay, I think it's recording. Did it notify you that it's recording?
Yeah, recording has started.
Cool. All right, so everybody, all four of you, I want to introduce you to Adam Garlinger, and Adam's been kind enough to agree to join me today, and hopefully we can each hear one another. Adam, did we lose you already? Uh-oh, Adam's frozen. Adam, are you frozen?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, there we go. It's probably on
Maybe
my end.
inside.
What's that?
Maybe inside.
Right on. So Adam's been kind enough to agree to join me. He was recommended to the Facecrime podcast. So you should feel good about being nominated for that, Adam. Yeah. So Adam is a design creative out of, it looks like New York, right? And
No, Jersey.
Jersey. Okay. Of course, I'm looking at LinkedIn, but and you can find him.
Yeah, New York City there, so I just left it.
Right on. So you can find him and his really great work at adamgarlinger.com. That's ADAMGARLINGER. So by way of kind of an introduction, Adam, I know you and I talked a little bit about this, but kind of like Pokemon, I'm out there trying to collect as many quote unquote difficult personalities as I can find, because frankly, I prefer difficult personalities. And so LinkedIn is a really interesting place to sort of find people who who uh, who are brave enough, let's say, stunning and brave, right? To write what they think, and especially in this sort of environment that we're in. So when I started picking through and following you and then seeing your comments, I was like, oh yeah, this guy's we gotta collect him. So I'm trying still to get kind of the how this podcast is going to go. So we go unedited. But there are a couple questions that I've started to kind of ask, and the first one I would ask is, do you consider yourself a difficult personality?
I'm really easy to get along with, but yeah, I guess I'm a difficult personality.
And so, sure. When were you first informed, or when did you first notice that perhaps you were a difficult personality?
Oh, since I was a little kid.
Uh-huh. So, like what, in school or before school? What?
Just always, man. I mean, it's just always it's the way I've been. I've been the same since I was a little kid, and I don't like bullies. I don't like people who like push on other people to manipulate them. That's just something I don't stand for. I never stood for it.
So it's interesting because that's kind of a theme that I pick up on folks that I'm talking to now that, I think the world would consider sort of difficult, is a kind of a demand of actual justice, right? I don't want to say an inflated sense, but a hyper sensitivity to true justice, not justice in the sense that we.
Yeah, for sure. It's actually really simple. It's right and it's wrong. You know what I mean? And it's just things you don't do. And a lot of people are doing things you don't do now. So it's easy to see, and it is what it is for a lot of reasons. But I just keep seeing people be pushed around.
Yeah, well, we've seen a lot of that recently, I would say, right?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
So you and I talked in business too, right? So that sort of honesty and that thriving for, being just in business, and obviously that's an extension of the sort of personal undergirding philosophy. So you've had your company for what, 18 years or something?
Since 2005, 2006, about that time I've worked for myself. And it's been good. There's ups and downs and stuff like that, but it's rewarding. And I find it really rewarding. And I don't think I'd be able to go back to work for anybody right now.
And so when you decided to do that, was that because that was about the time that I started going, okay, like in my situation, I kept running into, like, I was a really good like boss and a manager, but I ended up always being a really bad report, right? So I I couldn't help but like kind of look around me and go like, why are these decisions being made? This doesn't make any sense. And then that happened like two or three times professionally, and then I kind of stopped and I went, okay, wait a minute. I can't control that. It just seems to be something about me, right? Because I'm the common denominator. So I'm going to have to go out and do my own shit, right? So
Mm-hmm.
did you have a similar experience like that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff you see in corporate and agencies and stuff like that, it's so layered and there's a lot of BS and stuff like that. And who really has time for that? At the end of the day, you just want to put a hard day's work in, do a really good job, and that should be it. And it's actually really simple. But the more like bloated offices and corporate, that's just not happening. And I have no patience for that anymore. I mean, stuff shouldn't take that long, and there shouldn't be so many layers to jump through and so much hurdles to jump through just to get something done. And in corporate settings and agencies, and there's just a lot of that, and that's something that really never appealed to me.
Yeah, so I had the benefit of working for like a
And then
larger.
plus the politics of it, all that's just something I can't take.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah, I had the fun experience of working for a larger agency here in my town in Milwaukee, and boy, was it. I Thankfully I was more in a production role,
Mhm.
so I didn't have to really deal a lot with the politics, but there was still politics, and it was so crappy and brutal and just like I hated it. I hated it, and I just didn't fit in, because you know
And it's so segmented too. You just do one or two things, and that's it. And I find that really unrewarding. I like doing a lot of different things. I like writing. I like designing. I like doing strategy, architecture. In an agency or a bigger job, you can't do that. You're stuck doing one thing. And who wants to just do logos or, layouts?
Well, what the hell? Now we're sitting next to each other. That's cool. So we just switched from Zoom to Teams, which I'm not a huge fan of, but
Oh, I have Zoom open. You think that's it?
no, I don't think, I mean, maybe, but I'm trying to switch like the view of, so like we're side to side, but I don't know. I don't know what the hell's going on here.
You're the boss, dude. I have technology and me don't go together.
All right, well, we're gonna do it like this, I guess. Hang on. I don't know what this means, but okay. So anyway, so you are primarily a designer though, right? And a branding guy. Okay.
Yeah, I started off as a designer. Actually, I went to school for illustration. When I graduated school, I worked at a company and I did a lot of illustrations, like foils on board and stuff like that for their magazines, kind of a mix. And then slowly and gradually, I got into more branding and logos, and that's just something I want to do. And I think that's probably what I like doing the most. But for me, I have to do a little bit of everything. So I have to write a little copy, write a little messaging, do the strategy, because it's all interconnected anyway. So
Right.
it doesn't make sense to just do one thing.
And it's interesting because like at my shop here, we do web design, right? So we're good at that. But like if you came to us and you're like, hey, could you brand our company? We'd be like, no, like we're the last people you want to be doing that. So it's you're much further like upstream in the process to what we'd be doing. And it does take a certain it's a uh I would say you have to have a lot more patience and a lot more uh creative energy to be able to get out of the client, well, to kind of to produce for the client in that sense. Like for us to create a website, we take your assets and do that. That's one thing, but you're having to build like voice and all that crap, right? Too.
Yeah, the biggest thing is like the hardest thing is jumping from one thing to another each day and within the day. But I found like changing music, so I'll put on Spotify, I'll put my playlist on, which has a whole bunch of different music and different genres. And that kind of helps get in the mind space, kind of change up tempo, change up your mind space a little bit, helps you adjust. But there's days where I can just do like say an identity, and that's all I'll do because that's all I have the sort of the creative ability to do that day. So it
Yeah.
really depends.
So it's kind of like a writer, right? Because I was a musician for a long while, and so sometimes the muse is there, and sometimes it's not so much, and you have to know, like, okay, hey, now I'm just forcing it, or do I let there be more space, or do I need to come back
Yeah,
to
you
it?
got to let it come to you. You got to harness it. And
Yeah,
I think a lot of that comes from taking a lot of breaks during the day, going outside, going for a walk, opening a book, putting a movie on. It helps kind of like clear the headspace. I heard somewhere that someone said ideas don't happen when you're thinking of them; they happen when you're not thinking of them. Because your brain, I guess, needs that time to relax a little bit and kind of take a step
decompress,
back,
right?
so to speak.
Yeah, and sort of sort through what it is that you're noodling over. So speaking of
Yeah,
which, what movies have you been watching recently, or
I just I just watched HUD. It's an old 1960s movie with Paul Newman, and I think my favorite movie is On the Waterfront with Marlon Brando.
okay,
But the difference between like movies back then and movies now, well, besides the whole agenda and ideology stuff, is back then it seems like it was just a story, and that was the whole movie. There was no point to it. It was a whole story, just start to finish, and that's it. Not trying to say something, not trying to, push an agenda, not trying to moral of the story, if you will. And
right?
I think that's a big difference that I notice.
Yeah, I've been getting into really a lot of black and white stuff, and also one of my brothers turned me on to listening to the old like radio programs, podcasts, and stuff like that.
Those are great.
Yeah, it's just fascinating, that sort of melodrama, right? And then in the films, these were all like theater actors, right? And so it's very different than, today's actors, not to mention the scripts, but the actors themselves. So I love all that stuff. What have you been thinking about recently? What's been occupying your mind?
I don't know. Can't say it on air.
Okay. So
Just go with each day, man. That's it. Wake up, try to get my job done, try to have a good day, be productive,
mhm.
try to relax. There's a lot of stuff going on, but I think I don't know, you gotta be in your own space, comfortable all day, relaxed.
Yeah, totally. So what was your experience during the past like 3 years? I mean, where you guys were damn well locked down, weren't you?
What's that?
You guys were darn well locked down out there for the last 3 years, right? Or during that time.
Yeah, but I actually really didn't notice it. Besides all the crazies at the store with the masks and all that, and, it was great. Like when the lockdown first started happening, there was no cars down the road, so you could actually fly down the road. That was really enjoyable.
Right. And you didn't have to fight for parking spots, I imagine, right? Although you're in the burbs though, right? I'm
What's
in the
that?
burbs. You're in the burbs though, right?
I'm on the river. I'm on the Delaware, so it's kind of like country, but Princeton's about 15 minutes away. Trenton's about 15 minutes away. So it's a mix of everything.
So right, because in a Midwesterner, like the only time I spent, what do they say, back east, I think, was like out in the city. So in New York City. So I have a really kind of um how do I say it, skewed idea of probably what it's like in maybe New Jersey or you know what I mean?
Well,
Like
it's really peaceful, man. It's like it's gorgeous, and it's great for creativity too, because it's just everything's green around me. I got the river right there, but everything's green, so you kind of feel like an island here, you know.
yeah.
Um, it's really peaceful and really good for creativity.
So I see you're out on the porch there. You're taking advantage of that during the summer, I
Oh, I'm
imagine.
outside all year round, man. I got to get that vitamin D of the sun. It's so important.
Yeah, you and me both. I during February in Wisconsin, you know,
Oh, it's
it,
cold, huh?
yeah, well, you got to avoid Pink Floyd and you have to avoid razor blades, right? So you get to February and you try and push through and uh and then, you know, every time there's a little snow melt, you're like, is that spring? Is that spring? You know, so
Yeah.
but I do like
It
it
was
from
that tease, and like like spring, early spring tease, and then it goes away from and it's cold again.
yep, yeah. But I think the weather's probably similar, isn't it? Would you think? Does it get cold? It gets nice and cold there too, right?
Yeah, we got the four seasons. Winter, you know, spring, summer, fall. But over the past 2 years, it's been pretty mellow all year round.
Yeah, it's been the same here too. Uh, yeah, we'll have a couple weeks where it's just brutal cold, you know. But then we just sit inside and I don't know, eat cheese and watch the Packers blow another, you know.
For the Brewers, huh?
Yeah, well, yeah, well, the
They're in first
Brewers.
place, right? They got good again.
I have no idea. I I don't know. I think I pay as much attention to that as I have since 1982, which is not much. So, but so does that make you a Jets fan?
No, I'm a Giants fan.
Okay, you're a Giants fan. Because I was gonna say we could discuss Mr. Roger, right?
Oh, he's
Going to,
great, man. What happened? They let him
I think
go.
I
Did they
think he
trade him or sign, or the Jets sign him? I didn't look.
they traded him. They traded him.
Yeah, he's great, man.
He was, but he got a little bit too California for Wisconsin, I think, is the problem. So so he's gonna go play for the Jets for a year, like Favre, and then he's gonna end up, I think, in Minnesota. No, I'm
Oh,
kidding.
yeah,
I don't know. But anyway, so Giants
biggest
fan.
rival, right?
Well,
The Vikings Packers are like the Giants Eagles, I guess.
yeah, yeah, more recently because the Vikings have been better than the Bears for a long time. So, um, but usually it's like Packers Bears, right? So speaking of Packers and Bears, I like to use the analogy that that's kind of similar to perhaps what we see in our political uh, with our political parties. So we
Hmm.
every year we get to you know, cheer for the Bears or the Packers, and then when you look at their overall record, you know, it's like, you know, 50-50, right? So the Bears and Packers are neck and neck, right? And then the NFL always makes out. So do you think that's a decent, would that be a metaphor or a simile? I'm not sure.
Could be. Better would be the Giants and Jets because they both play at Giant Stadium or MetLife, whatever it's called. So it's basically two sides of the same coin.
Right. So um so okay, then there's some other questions I like to ask. So uh why are humans worth saving? I guess I would ask this. Are humans worth saving? Is
Yeah,
humanity
of
worth
course,
saving?
man.
Okay. And then follow up to that would be why.
Why? That's the hard question lately, right? Um, 'Cause without us, there's nothing, you know.
So,
But
so go ahead.
everybody's got to save themselves. There's no nobody's going to do it for you, you know. I think my powers.
You think what? You kind of glitched out on me there. A little glitchy. Hang on a sec, Adam. Being weird. Think I lost you for a minute. Oh boy, there you are. So you were saying
Yeah,
when the
our
jet
power just went out.
oh, the power went out.
Yeah, we just lightning bolt, and yeah, the power sucks around here. It's really old town, so everything is along the river, the infrastructure. So there's kind of like a main road out there. So if someone like hits the pole, the whole town loses power for like a couple hours.
Oh boy. I thought
Yeah,
that sounded like lightning. Are you gonna be all right out there?
I hope so.
Okay. So what so humanity at this point, would you agree that we're at some sort of like with the advent of AI and all that? I mean, do you feel like we're at a really um crucial point in human development?
I think we're at the point. I think we're at sort of like um, it's. Let me best put this. Those who use AI and those who don't, and those who use AI are going to be on the short end of the stick.
Why?
It's just there's no creative purpose to it. I mean, it's the antithesis, if that's the right word, of creativity. You know, it's like fabricated other people's work. Um, you know, in art and creativity, you need heart and soul, and AI doesn't have heart and soul. And it's just it's really that simple.
Yeah, so
And we're
yeah.
at the point where it's like you got the builders and producers versus those who are just going along with the narrative, with the flow, and it's been proven in history they're always the shortest end of the stick, and it is what it is. You make your choice.
So you make your choice to be what? To be part of the
The
machinery
first
or
man or the last man, like in that book by Nietzsche, I think it was, where he talked about the first men and the last men.
mm,
The last men are kind of like the sheep, those who go along with everything, those who don't think for themselves. The first men are the builders, the producers, those who can bring something to the table, those who think for themselves, those who have something to offer. And that's the difference, and you can choose to be one or the other.
so I'm of the mind that there's a certain and this is not original to me at all, but there's certainly a percentage of um people incidentally who are perhaps easy to get along with but considered difficult personalities, let's say, that um that simply don't know how to go along to get along, right?
Right.
And I tell my kids this. I say, look, um, during peacetime, um, you might be considered a difficult personality when you have certain, whether you want to call them morals or philosophy or beliefs or an undergirding sort of structure to, your uh, worldview, right? And in times of peace, people don't like that, right? Because they see you as sort of rigid and perhaps uh, um, being too worried about, for instance, words and what words mean, and science and what science means, or biology, reality, stuff like this. Um, but during times of crisis, that percentage of men and women who are difficult, or considered difficult in peacetime, during times of crisis, these are precisely the people that uh, whose names might live a couple generations, right? Because they're willing to, or unwilling, let's say, to take a knee, right? So, do you think that's fair? Do you think people like that, uh, difficult people, survive whatever this newest
Yeah,
fashion is?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And so,
Because take things lying down, and that they lead and they move forward and do the things that need to get done, and some of the uncomfortable things that people don't want to do. I think difficult people can do those things. I don't know. I think partly, I think it's your upbringing and stuff like that. Partly it's how you're wired. I mean, some people are just wired differently from the start, and um, independence is a big part of that. Those people that you speak of want to be independent. That's like the pinnacle of everything is their independence, and they value that over everything else. And it's hard to say why it is and how it is, but it just is.
did you find during the past couple of years where, and I'm not asking for like us, obviously not to name anyone or any, did you feel like I felt like some people that I thought were sort of like-minded in the sense of like they wouldn't go easily into that dark night, and they just picked up their shit and went. Like I was stunned, these people that if you would have asked me 3, 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And did you have any of that disappointment in your life for the people that you knew, or?
No, I'm pretty surrounded with like-minded people in my life, my immediate life, and on social media and stuff on LinkedIn. Like that. So no, I wasn't really surprised. You kind of get a gut feeling about people when you first meet.
You broke up on me a little bit.
That gut feeling. Did it freeze up again?
Yeah, a little bit, but it's okay. Go ahead. So you get a gut feeling of what?
You just know, people right away. I don't know if it's age or life experience or whatever, but you kind of get a sense of those people immediately through your gut. Um, so there were a few surprises here and there, um, but no, I mean, you know who's gonna come through in clutch and who's not going to.
Yeah, I was surprised a little bit, a little, I guess disappointed a little bit. So I guess I wasn't that surprised in sort of our alphabet people, alphabet agencies. That didn't really surprise me, right? Because they're bureaucrats. Um, I felt that, certainly wasn't surprised with like uh, journalists, if we can call them that, right? At this point, I was personally disappointed, and not to be too harsh. I was very disappointed, for instance, in the church of my baptism, which would be the Catholic Church. I was really disappointed, that they just went quietly to go along to get
Yeah,
along, and allow the parishes and churches to be shut down. I couldn't believe. I, I don't know why. I think maybe because I have a romantic notion of it, but I was really bothered by that a lot.
yeah, I bet. Yeah, that sucks. That's like a fabric in life. You know what I mean? And I think it hurt for a lot of people to have that fabric pulled from under them. I don't know. I mean, nothing really surprises me anymore. So
Yeah, we got
it's
aliens and
just people,
JFK and the CIA and
the alphabet agencies.
yeah, totally, right. And I guess I wasn't shocked with academia, obviously, right. You and I, it appears, went to college at about the same time, and I remember just getting sniffs and hints of this thing called political correctness, and just but it was it was more like I said, like wafting in the air. It wasn't a like solid thing, right? Um, but you could you could sense that sort of crap bubbling up. Um, and I like to be courteous, but I don't like having my speech governed. Certainly not my thoughts.
Yeah. Um, I just don't understand how people are so thin-skinned. It's just unbelievable. I mean, they're just words. How could words hurt you? If someone doesn't like me, it doesn't change. It doesn't change me. They don't like me. Not my problem. Their problem.
Right.
Um, you know, um, Sometimes people say things are nice, but I don't understand how people lose their shit over that. It just doesn't make sense to me.
So I wonder on that topic, like I think that there's been this steady sort of um decoupling of maybe um people from the reality that we're finite, that we don't control everything. And particularly here in the West, like I feel like maybe people actually think they have a right maybe not to die, or a right not to be uncomfortable, or I'm not sure what that is, but it's almost this sense of you need to be part of my delusion, right? Otherwise
Yeah,
you're hating on me, right? You're not allowing me to live my truth or something. It's very weird.
yeah, it is delusion. Um, it's something that is maybe comes from helicopter parenting. I don't know, but the thought that everybody has to make you happy is the most silly thing I've ever heard of. You have to make yourself happy. You're responsible for your own happiness, nobody else. And just like nobody else is responsible for you being unhappy. It sounds like, losing a loved one or something like that. But, I mean, it's hard to understand, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that comes from people. I always confuse them. Look outside yourself, or look inside yourself, one or the other. But happiness and self fulfillment and the way you want to live your life, like emotionally, that comes from the inside. And outside factors don't change that. Like when I get up in the morning, it's nobody else's job to make me happy, and but myself. Um, and I don't have to look outside myself to do that. I'm not like dependent on other people for happiness, dependent on other people for whatever. I mean, it all comes from inside the person.
So that's interesting because I do think that we live in a society perhaps where we've gotten to the point where um, there's very little introspection, like you mentioned,
Mm,
but there's a lot of
yeah.
projection, right? So maybe I'm projecting by saying that. I'm not sure, but you know,
It's a good observation, though. It's important. I mean, that's it. I think so many miss that. Don't understand that. For fact, and it's hard for me to understand why they don't understand that. You know what I mean? It's hard for me to understand how somebody feels like we have to play into their images of the delusion to make them happy, to go along with them. I mean, it doesn't. The world doesn't work like that.
but that's the utopian dream, right? I mean, sort of, isn't it? I mean, isn't that the utopia that we're all moving toward? Is is this
Yeah, there is no
place?
utopia.
Yeah,
None.
right. I mean, you're a wordsmith, so like utopia means literally means nowhere, right? So it's
Right,
like,
in Greek, something like that. Yeah,
yeah,
utopus, I think is the word.
yeah. So
It's a
like,
place that doesn't exist or something like that,
right.
and it doesn't. They think that they want the world to be perfect, but nothing ever works like that. You know, it just doesn't.
Right. And it's, I'm kind of reminded when people talk like that, like that it's unachievable. It's nice to say like, we want to form a more perfect union, implying that things aren't perfect and things will never be perfect, right? Um, but this idea that we can create a perfect union is uniquely um, crazy, frankly, from
Part
my
of me
perspective.
thinks it's like, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
Part
go
of
ahead.
me thinks it's like to keep people from not paying attention, like to make them feel like this utopia or whatever is possible, because they'll always strive to get there no matter what. So if that's the case, if you have people always trying to achieve that, which is the unachievable, then they're not going to pay attention to anything else.
And the least the activity they'll engage in least, I think you're right on the money, is kind of looking internally and working on themselves, right? So because that's painful and it's not fun, and um it's hard to protest yourself or burn your own stuff down, or make yourself the other to yourself, I suppose. So um I think, I also think a lot of that plays into um you know the humans are, I think, hardwired, as you mentioned, to be sort of toward this religiosity. So whether it's in the traditional sense, let's say Jewish or Christian or Muslim or Hindu or whatever, or whether it's none of those and it's pagan, or or Norse or whatever it might be, like people are given to wanting these, I'll put them like in air quotes, but like sacraments and priests and dogmas. And I mean, that's kind of, I think it's the default position of human beings. So, in the absence of any sort of, again, whether it's traditional or pagan or what have you, in the absence of those religions, we end up with this weird, I didn't know what to call them except for utopians, or I'm not sure what that religion is, but um, it's weird.
Yeah, I read somewhere that like humans need something to believe in. We need something like a religion, a cause, whatever have you. So maybe that's the new thing is the utopia and whatever you want to call it. Woke is like the whole new thing. It's like utopia is their religion, and they do take stuff personally. Can't joke with them, that's for sure. But it is really hard to look inside oneself. I mean, it's hard, but it's something that people need to do. I mean, it's something that I do for myself. It's not easy, but after a while, it's sort of objective. It doesn't, we all have faults. We all, whatever the case may be. But looking at yourself, looking at that doesn't change if you're a good person or a bad person. It is what it is. It's like saying, well, someone's going to get mad at the clouds because the clouds are there. The clouds just exist because they exist. So it's not really a personal thing in a way. I don't know if I explained that right.
No, I mean, it's a very sort of mystical Zen, approach. It's like, it's weird. You hear people say, well, it is what it is. I mean, in some ways, it really is what it is. And, um, sometimes a tree is a tree, but sometimes a tree is more than a tree, or, you know what I mean? So I'm with you there, but I'm really kind of, um, I'm concerned. I would say I'm concerned about the future. I don't know if it's because I'm older. I don't know if it's because I have kids. And so I'm looking around and going like, oh my God, what did we do? Now I think you're a Gen Xer. So we're like, are you,
Yeah, I was born in '75.
okay.
I think
So,
it's called the 13th generation.
so, but we're such a small population segment of the population anyway. But I mean, it's interesting because, It's interesting because I'm not. I want to blame boomers for everything, right? Um, but I think and I think a lot of that critique is fair on the boomers for sure. But um, but I mean, Xers are sort of given to that Zen anyway, right? That whatever sort of, but not really. I mean, I look around and think like, what's this place going to look like in 20 years? And I got to be honest with you, I'm not real.
No, same here. We're definitely coming to like a precipice, a not a conflict, but a resolution. I think there will be a resolution, and we'll see.
When you say a resolution, do you mean usually there's some crucible before like some test? Is that
Yeah, I don't know if resolution is a good word.
there will
There's
be an
gonna be
outcome?
it's gonna be a fork in the road, and then I think whatever happens, one fork will be taken. One of those paths will be taken, and the way things are going, it just looks like it's a certainty that that will happen.
So are you hopeful then or not? I think you froze up on me again. I swear to God,
Goes
it's
back.
been. This is
What's that?
why I think Teams keeps freezing up, but that's okay. Are you hopeful then or no?
Um, I'm hopeful. Yeah, it's something that's gonna happen, and I think it needs to happen. Let me put it that way. So hopeful, yeah, because it definitely needs to happen, and it's probably going to happen, and so be it. That's what happens. But it's a great time to be alive, isn't it?
It's
I
a
mean, it's not boring for sure.
yeah, it's
Can't say a word.
it's not boring.
Right? Not boring at all, and that's all that matters, right? Life's not boring. So
Well, yeah, I mean, I would like a little bit more boredom, but I hear what you're saying for sure.
change is
So
good, dude. Change is good. You
sometimes.
know.
So let me ask you this. Do you think then are we in for a dystopian future in the sense of it's radically different and not nearly as
If
peaceful
we
as it is?
lose, yeah. If we lose, for sure. And it's gonna be a long time because the world has always been, the monarchy and the serfs throughout the history of the world, and it's always been like that. America is only what we're 240 years old. We're really the first sort of republic with things the way they've been. Where all men are equal under the law. Where theoretically we used to be able to take a Bill Gates to court and stop him. It's not like that anymore. I don't think at any point in history there's been that thing. So, we're like the last bastion. And this is something new in the history of our republic is new in the history of the world. It's always been the kings, the monarchy, or the tyrants and the serfs. So if we don't win, if we don't come out on top, it's gonna probably go back to that way.
I kind of have the same sense as you. I don't wish for it, I suppose, but at the same time, I kind of look at the Republic, and I think um, there used to be, you and I are old enough to remember there used to be some overlap, right? And you could have true conservatives and you could have true liberals, liberals with a capital L, and we would agree on 60, 70% of stuff. And then, kind of out at the edges, we might have a different, um, we might differ in matters of like prudence, right, or how to accomplish certain things, or if we should set about to accomplish those things. But now I look at it and I've never seen a polity that's so just nearly diametrically opposed, which in and of itself is a problem, right? Because you don't have the shared uh so I've heard it said, for instance, like, 30 years ago, you could ask anyone, do you love the country? Yeah, I love the country, but I fear the government. Fine. I love my country. I love my country. And I don't mean like blind patriotism or anything like that, although there was
Yeah.
enough of that. But I mean, like, I want what's best for my country, fellow countrymen, and my country. And the thing is that I think perhaps we've hit a point where a large portion of the citizenry thinks that you have to literally tear everything down to create utopia. Whereas
Right.
my sense would be like, no, we may have to scuffle and it may get ugly, but not to the degree where we, you know, kill off the republic, if you will, right? So, but it's really hard to advance without sort of that crescendo in a song, right? So you hit a crescendo and then there's the outro of the song, and I feel like it's just this creeping toward crescendo. And again, I'm not hoping for it. I always want peace and I want my kids to live peacefully, but at the same time, like, you know, um, you know, well, I'll leave it at that, I suppose.
To me, nothing ever gets like, and nothing, you don't break things to make them, to create the world you want. That's just illogical, and the way, this whole build back better, this whole thing, it's pretty obvious they want to completely break the system and remake it into, the tech tyranny, everybody's, you control, like, cancel culture, you'll lose your ability to use your stove or, buy groceries and stuff like that. And that's what they want. And it's under the guise of, quote unquote, build back better, which is completely stupid, because you don't break things to build them, you know.
Right.
And that's the world they want. And that's what, we have to, oppose, so
Well,
underground.
I wonder the I I wonder if there are enough difficult people to resist. Um,
I think so. I hope so.
yeah, I hope so too. I hope so too. So what else? What else is going on out there? Any interesting things on the Weber tubes that your internet you're finding?
No, the same boring thing. Work every day. Um, just enjoying the days, man. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Well, I certainly really appreciate you hopping on here and
Yeah, yeah. I suck on video, but I appreciate you bearing with me. It was a great
no, not at
conversation.
all. You're good, man. This is fine. I mean,
I
just
expect the rain.
I'm learning how to do this crap too, but I'm glad that I can collect you in my Pokeball and put unleash you on the YouTubes and all four of my subscribers. So, all right. Well, I appreciate the conversation for sure, and it's great talking to you. And I know,
Yeah, it's great
uh,
meeting you face to face.
yeah, exactly. And I'm gonna keep following you, and just so everybody keeps in mind, and I'll say this: I don't hand this out very not I don't do this very often, but I really do like your work. I think it's really
I
nice,
really
and I
appreciate it.
think anyone looking for branding, positioning, creating that really decent corporate, whether it's a branding revamp or a new brand or what have you, this stuff. I'm looking at your portfolio right now. This stuff looks really top shelf, really good.
Thanks, man.
So
I really
yeah.
do appreciate that. That's kind of you.
Well,
Yeah, I
I
love
didn't.
what I do, man.
How's that? How's that? I think we broke up again. This is a very professional production here, Adam.
What's that?
I said this is a very professional production here. We're like it keeps breaking up, and who the hell knows? But yeah, so everybody, you can find Adam at adamgarlinger.com. That's AdamGarlinger.com. Cool.
Cool, man. It's great
Appreciate
talking
you a
to you.
lot. We'll talk soon, okay?
Cool, man. Have a good
All right,
rest of your
hombre.
day.
See you.
Peace.
Bye.